What will happen to Donald Trump if China, Russia, and North Korea unite without him? Imagine this: the three most unpredictable powers on the global chessboard, China, Russia, and North Korea, deciding to link arms not with the United States, not with the West, and certainly not with Donald Trump, but with each other. For years, Trump has bragged about his special relationships with strongmen like Putin and Kim Jong-un, insisting he alone could keep them close. But what happens if that narrative crumbles and those very leaders decide they no longer need him? The balance of power could shift overnight, leaving Trump exposed as a man whose claims of influence were little more than smoke and mirrors. Would his political brand survive a world where America's adversaries move forward without him? Or would it reveal just how isolated and powerless he truly is? Stay tuned as we break it down right now. The shifting currents of international politics have always determined who holds power and who is relegated to the margins. Over the past decade, Donald Trump has positioned himself as a leader who can bend these currents to his will. He has claimed with unwavering confidence that he could resolve the Russia-Ukraine war in 24 hours. He has insisted that his personal relationships with Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, and even Kim Jong-un gave him unique leverage to broker deals that no other American leader could achieve. He has sold the idea that his presence on the world stage was not merely important but indispensable. Yet the reality unfolding today suggests something profoundly different. In Beijing, the leaders of China, Russia, and North Korea recently gathered in a striking show of unity. Xi Jinping hosted Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un at the Great Hall of the People, where they drank tea, exchanged warm words of friendship, and signaled a common front against the West. This was not a casual meeting, but a calculated performance of solidarity. For the first time, the three appeared together in public, presenting themselves as an axis of resistance to Western dominance. Missing from this picture, of course, was Donald Trump. For all his boasts of influence, he was left out entirely. The question then arises, what happens to Trump if China, Russia, and North Korea consolidate their relationship without him? The answer carries profound implications. Trump's political identity is built on the myth that he alone commands respect from strongmen, that he alone can secure peace through personal charm and transactional toughness. If that myth collapses, his credibility at home and abroad collapses with it. More importantly, America's adversaries may be emboldened to exploit his absence, undermining U.S. strategic interests, while Trump remains locked in his own cycle of grievance and self-promotion. In this script, we will examine the issue in depth. We will look first at Trump's diplomatic illusions compared to the stark reality of authoritarian alignment. Then we will explore the symbolism of his exclusion from the emerging China-Russia-North Korea triangle. After that, we will analyze the consequences for Trump's domestic political standing. Finally, we will assess the risks for U.S. national security and the broader global order if this authoritarian alliance strengthens while Trump's credibility continues to erode. The story here is not just about one man being humiliated. It is about what his humiliation reveals about the world and about America's place within it. Trump may insist that he can end wars in 24 hours, but if world leaders laugh at that claim and move forward without him, then the question is no longer whether Trump can command respect. It is whether the United States can withstand the consequences of his exclusion. Donald Trump has always relied on bravado when discussing foreign policy. His claim that he could resolve the Russia-Ukraine conflict in a single day is emblematic of his approach: overpromise, underdeliver, and rely on spectacle to distract from the lack of substance. In the transcript, we hear him repeating the 24-hour pledge over and over. He insists that he knows both Putin and Zelensky personally, that his mere presence in the Oval Office would compel them to compromise. He frames diplomacy as a transaction, as if war could be concluded like a real estate deal with a handshake and a smile. But diplomacy does not bend so easily. Wars are not simply misunderstandings between leaders who have failed to sit at the same table. The Russia-Ukraine conflict is rooted in deep historical grievances, territorial ambitions, and ideological clashes. It is a war about sovereignty, identity, and the future of European security. Trump's insistence that he alone could solve it in 24 hours reveals not strategic genius, but profound ignorance. Putin himself has undermined Trump's boasts by admitting that their conversations never reached detailed discussions of peace. Instead, their interactions were superficial, amounting to little more than agreements to talk in the future. While Trump clings to illusions, Xi Jinping, Putin, and Kim Jong-un are forging a different kind of reality. Their summit in Beijing was not about resolving conflicts, but about reinforcing defiance against the West. They presented a united front to signal that their power is growing, that they can set their own agenda without needing American approval. Trump's absence underscored that he was never the indispensable mediator he claimed to be. He was, at best, a prop for Putin, a figure who could be used for photo opportunities, but discarded when real strategy was on the line. The illusion shatters most clearly when Trump complains about being excluded. He hints that he is disappointed in Putin for not making progress, as though Putin owed him deference. He blames artificial intelligence for embarrassing depictions of himself, as though deepfakes were the reason the world sees him as irrelevant. The reality is that Trump cannot accept what is happening. The world is moving forward without him, and his promises cannot bring it back. Being excluded from the table of world power is not merely a personal slight. It is a profound symbol of diminished influence. For Trump, whose political identity is wrapped in the notion that he is respected by the world's most formidable leaders, exclusion is devastating. When Xi hosts Putin and Kim for tea in the Great Hall, the message is not just that they are cooperating. The message is that they can cooperate without Trump. Consider the contrast. During his presidency, Trump prided himself on one-on-one meetings that elevated his status. He staged summits with Kim Jong-un in Singapore and Hanoi, claiming he had achieved what no other U.S. president could. He bragged about his dear-friend relationship with Xi Jinping, even as trade wars deepened. He basked in the perception that Putin admired him, interpreting flattery as respect. Now, however, those same leaders are standing together in Beijing, not with Trump, but with each other. It is as though they have collectively decided that Trump is no longer useful. The symbolism extends further. By excluding Trump, Xi and Putin demonstrate that they are no longer interested in being props for his political theater. They have their own stage, their own audience, and their own script. Trump, who once imagined himself as the director of global drama, is reduced to a spectator. This exclusion undermines his claim to unique diplomatic ability. It shows that his supposed friendships were never about him. They were about the interests of leaders who used him when convenient and discarded him when he outlived his usefulness. For Trump's supporters, the image of their leader being sidelined is jarring. They were promised strength, dominance, and respect. Instead, they see their champion mocked, ignored, and laughed at by the very leaders he claimed to control. The symbolism is not subtle. It is a humiliation, and humiliation is political poison for someone who has built his career on the projection of strength. Trump's foreign policy persona has always been a pillar of his political brand. He presents himself as the tough negotiator who commands respect abroad, contrasting himself with what he portrays as weak democratic leadership. He insists that other leaders feared him, that wars would not have happened on his watch, that America was respected because of him. This narrative is central to his appeal. Yet when China, Russia, and North Korea unite without him, that narrative collapses. Voters are forced to confront the gap between Trump's words and reality. The man who promised to be indispensable is, in fact, dispensable. The leader who claimed he could bring peace is left begging for relevance. This contradiction weakens his credibility not only on foreign policy but across the board. If he lied about his influence abroad, what else is he lying about at home? Domestically, the consequences could be severe. Trump's political enemies will seize on his exclusion as evidence that he is unfit to lead. They will argue that his bluster has made America weaker, not stronger. They will point to the Beijing summit as proof that authoritarian leaders do not respect him, they exploit him. Meanwhile, his allies will struggle to spin the humiliation. Some will argue that he is being unfairly sidelined by a globalist conspiracy. Others will insist that his exclusion proves his importance, that adversaries fear his return. Yet neither spin can erase the reality of what the world sees. Trump is on the outside looking in. For a politician who thrives on the image of dominance, being portrayed as irrelevant is dangerous. It undermines his aura of inevitability in a potential return to the White House. It raises doubts among independents and moderates who might otherwise believe in his claims of unique competence. It erodes the very foundation of his political identity. The unification of China, Russia, and North Korea carries risks far beyond Trump's ego. For the United States, it represents a potential axis of authoritarianism capable of destabilizing global security. If these countries coordinate militarily, economically, and diplomatically, they could undermine Western sanctions, challenge NATO, and embolden other autocrats to resist international norms. Trump's exclusion from their alliance does not mean he is irrelevant to this threat. On the contrary, his weakness magnifies the danger. If he returns to power while being viewed as a leader who cannot command respect, America risks facing adversaries who see no reason to compromise. They may calculate that Trump's promises are hollow, that his threats are empty, and that they can advance their agendas without fear of meaningful resistance. Moreover, Trump's habit of praising strongmen creates further vulnerabilities. If he interprets exclusion as insult, he may overcompensate by offering concessions in pursuit of validation. He may seek to reinsert himself into the geopolitical drama by cutting deals that benefit authoritarian leaders at the expense of U.S. allies. His desperation to appear respected could make him manipulable, turning American power into a bargaining chip for his personal ego. The risk is not merely theoretical. We have already seen how Trump's desire for flattery led him to embrace Kim Jong-un, producing photo ops but no substantive denuclearization. We have seen how he excused Putin's aggression, undermining Western unity. We have seen how he alternated between praising and attacking Xi, creating uncertainty in U.S. strategy. If he faces the humiliation of exclusion, his unpredictability may increase, creating instability not only for America, but for the entire international system. The exclusion of Trump must also be viewed in the context of the global order. The alliance of China, Russia, and North Korea represents a challenge not only to the United States, but to the entire West. It signals the possibility of a world divided into competing blocs, with authoritarian regimes on one side and democracies on the other. In this new order, credibility matters. Leaders who command respect shape outcomes. Leaders who are mocked and ignored are sidelined. Trump's humiliation, therefore, is not just personal. It reflects the diminishing credibility of the United States under his brand of leadership. If the world's most brutal dictators laugh at the idea of Trump forcing their hand, what message does that send to allies in Europe, Asia, and beyond? It sends the message that American leadership is fragile, inconsistent, and vulnerable to manipulation. This erosion of credibility weakens the West's ability to deter aggression. It emboldens adversaries to push boundaries, knowing that the supposed master dealmaker is incapable of delivering results. It places greater pressure on allies to fill the vacuum, potentially leading to fractures in coalitions that rely on American leadership. In short, Trump's exclusion is not just about him being humiliated, it is about America being diminished. The spectacle of China, Russia, and North Korea uniting without Donald Trump is more than a diplomatic snub. It is a profound commentary on the limits of his influence, the fragility of his political narrative, and the risks facing the United States. Trump built his brand on the illusion of indispensability, yet the world has shown that he is not indispensable at all. He promised to deliver peace in 24 hours, yet the war rages on without his input. He claimed to be respected by strongmen, yet those strongmen laugh together in Beijing while he is sidelined. What will happen to Donald Trump if this alliance consolidates without him? He will face humiliation, the erosion of credibility, and the collapse of a central pillar of his political identity. Domestically, he will struggle to maintain the narrative of strength. Internationally, he will be viewed as irrelevant at best and manipulable at worst. For the United States, the danger is not only in his personal humiliation, but in the broader consequences of weakened credibility and emboldened adversaries. The story of Trump's exclusion is a reminder that global politics is not theater, and diplomacy is not real estate. Strength is not projected through bluster, but through credibility, alliances, and sustained engagement. As Xi, Putin, and Kim stand together, Trump's absence speaks louder than his promises. And unless America learns to separate its national interests from one man's ego, the risk is that the United States itself will be left watching from the sidelines.